Because we hit 125 likes on the RPG Showcase video, I am making this video where I explain exactly how every single part of the inventory works. If you want an overview of all the features in this inventory, a video that does just that is in the description. So if you haven't seen that yet, I would highly recommend checking it out before watching this. But anyway, yeah, so where are we gonna start? I think we should start with the remixable template that I built this off of. I could just find it, but just to prove to you that I actually did start from it, I'm gonna go into the I'm gonna edit the source of the inventory, and then I think we have to do it one more time. And here it is. So this is what I started with. This is remixable, all right? Grid-based inventory. I will put the link to this as well in the description. Grid-based inventory. This is remixable, and it's an inventory. You've got objects that you can pick up, swap, destroy, and I started with this and I heavily changed it. Added feature, removed a couple things, and we have this. It's very similar, but lots of stuff added. Let's start at the beginning. No, let's start with cursor movement. I'm just gonna be going over like each individual thing. So cursor movement, that is done with a pretty intuitive system. It is hard coded. So like, what I mean by that is if you put this box over here, you can't move the cursor. Well, I'll show you. It's as if the box was still here. Anyway, it works by basically you hardwire every destination from where you are at. What do I mean by that? Each grid space has 4 outputs: up, down, left, and right. We have this, which is inventory navigation, and well, what is that? There's a lot here. This is gonna be a fun video. Where are the controls? I believe the controls are here, and it's probably gonna be here. Inventory navigation. This is a fat wire. We are putting in the 4 D-pads, right? So up, down, left, right. If we go into this, it is literally just a controller sensor hooked up to everything. So up, down, left, right, going into a fat wire, okay? And we're transmitting that fat wire. So that goes here, all right? If the cursor is on this spot, or whichever spot, but we're looking at this spot right now. If the cursor is on the spot and you press one of the D-pads, the fat wire is being split. So can I like show this? No, I need to, here, just so I can demo this, I'm gonna make this, oh, it already is remote controllable. Oh, let's do this. We needed to be in the inventory. So it's paused, but it'll still work. Notice how I'm pressing right D-pad. The right one is going off. Up D-pad, the up one. So that's how we're getting the controls. Anyway, what are we even doing? What is this doing? Well, let's say we go right. The signal will go, and I've wired this in to this input node. And let's just keep looking at this one. So here's the same node on this one. let's say this receives a signal. What happens? Literally all that happens is this tag turns on. Cursor, new position. How does that work? Our cursor, that's not it. It's this. This is our cursor. Our cursor is constantly following at 1,000 meters, like as fast as possible, to the tag cursor new position. So here's an example. The cursor is on this spot. I press right D-pad. The right D-pad signal goes into this spot's cursor new position node, which turns on the tag. See? The tag turns on, and the cursor, which is constantly following the tag, follows this tag. It's only on for 1 frame, right? So this inventory cannot move. Watch what happens. I think this will work. If I scope in one more time. One more time. Oh, okay. See, I'm learning too. The cursor's not moving. All right, the cursor's not moving. The cursor is like an invisible... Oh, wait. The cursor did move. Okay, hold on. Yeah, look at that. So here's the cursor. Sorry, I got confused for a little bit. Look how we're playing time. And the cursor does not move. All right? This inventory cannot move. It has to stay in the same spot, and that's important. I mean, there's a lot of parts that depend on the inventory never moving. I don't want to say it's possible. I mean, I guess it's possible, but there's a lot of parts that probably wouldn't work consistently if the inventory was allowed to move. So the inventory is in one spot. The cursor, again, follows that tag for 1 frame because it's only on for 1 frame. So it basically goes there and then stops. And we can do it one more time. We're not in the inventory. Okay. And then same thing for, like, we can go down. So if here's the down wire, it flashed on for 1 frame, turns that tag on, and the cursor teleports. So that's how cursor movement works. All right, what's next? How about slot unlocking or spot? Spot. I always go between spot and slot, but it's I've decided on spot. Let's try to keep it consistent. Spot unlocking. I'm starting with the easy stuff because this is gonna get very complex. Oh my gosh, spot unlocking. There's a couple things you have to keep in mind. One, we need to save this, right? We need to save what spots have already been unlocked. Fortunately, it's a little bit easier because they always unlock in the same order. So in this situation, we have these 12 that have not unlocked. Each spot has an unlocked switch right here. If it's off, that means the spot, is locked. And once it's turned on, it's unlocked. All right, how do we turn it on? Well, hold on. Before we go over that, what happens when it's turned on? Well, one, it is able to be moved to. So remember how cursor movement works. If it's locked, this tag can never turn on, so the cursor can never move there. Also, new items. If it's locked, I haven't gone over this yet, but basically this is where this allows new items to be spawned in. New items cannot be spawned in on locked spots. Oh my gosh, spots. Okay, so that's what happens when a spot is unlocked. How do we unlock those spots? I have a single variable called, okay, it's called slots. It should be called spots unlocked, but it's called slots unlocked. And this keeps track of how many spots are unlocked. All right, right now it's 0. If it was a higher number, so I can just for this test, I can delete this wire and then just manually count the counter up. So let's play time. And you can see every time the counter ticks up, another spot is unlocked. This isn't random. It's just literally just hard-coded. I think it's keep changes, which is, yeah, see? How does this work, though? We have the count progress, which converts the counters 0 to 12 into 0 to 1. It converts it into a value from 0 to 1, and we're putting that into the playhead position. There are exactly 12 frames. That actually might not be true. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are exactly 13 frames on this timeline. The first frame we don't want anything on, right? Because 0 to 12 is 13 different numbers. 0, 1, 2, etc. to 12. So that's why we have 13 frames. So if the counter's at 0, we're on frame 0, nothing's on. If the counter's at 1, we're on frame 1, this keyframe is on. I mean, you can guess what this keyframe does. It turns that switch on, right? See? This keyframe turns this switch on. This keyframe turns this next switch on. Yes, this is completely hard-coded, but it just makes sense to do it this way. The reason they're laid out like this is because, let's say there's 2 spots unlocked. Well, if there's 1, it's this one. If there's 2, we still want the first one unlocked, right? So that's why this extends all the way over. As we unlock more spots, we still want the previous ones to stay unlocked. I believe they are keep changes. Oh, they're not even keep changes. Okay. I thought they were. Huh, these aren't even keep changes. They probably should be, honestly, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, that's how spots are unlocked. It's pretty simple. Hopefully that makes sense. What should we go over next? Let's try to go over how items are moved. So what do I mean by that? Well, we should have an item to demo with. So you can pick it up, you can put it down. When you're picking it up, it follows the cursor, and you can put it back down anywhere. And then you cannot put it down so if it's equipment, or if it's not equipment, you can only put it down in the proper equipment slot. And then there's one more thing. This was probably a horrible example. Let me get a different item. And there's one more thing. If you take an item and press X over another item, it swaps them like this. So how does this all work? Let me show you. Inside the cursor, which I didn't really say this, but it's a separate object. So the cursor is an object, and each inventory spot is its own object with its own chip. But anyway, inside the cursor, we have something. Well, I didn't even label this, but this basically manages the cursor's state, kind of thing. It's interesting how I set this up. It's interesting to say the least, because it's been changed a lot, and I've made it work for what I needed it to do. But you know what? I'm not saying it's perfect, but it does the job, and that's what matters. I'm just here to try to explain it, so wish me luck. We have a selector with 2 outputs, A and B. A represents, so if we're ever in A, the cursor is not doing anything. Nothing is grabbed, it's just existing, all right? The cursor is just in its default state. If we're in B, the cursor is actively holding on to an object. So again, A, there's nothing in the cursor. B, the cursor has an object. You're grabbing something. Okay. When you first enter A, it sets down the object that's in your cursor. When you first enter B, nothing actually happens. Okay, that's interesting. I think I moved this logic somewhere else. But in B, so I have a tag that's called grabbing, and I use this in other places. But basically, if this tag is on, I know that the cursor is grabbing something. And I use this in other places in the inventory. I think in the items. But, okay, anyway, the majority, this isn't really used a whole lot. But the majority of the logic is here. And let's see. So, right, we can do a couple of different things. placing and grabbing are the simplest, so I think we should start with that. Let's start with grabbing, because you can't place until you grab. So let's just open this. It's not that crazy, I hope. Sure, okay. So how do you grab? I'm assuming if this AND gate goes off, you do grab something. Let's start with this. Grab. Okay. The C stands, if you can read that, the C stands for control, right? So the controller is, controls, and then after that, it's what the control is. So inventory, grab, or place, which is X. But basically what this is saying is if you press X, and what? What is this? You are in the default state. So if you're in the default state, you're not grabbing anything, and you press the grab button, and you're hovering an item. So if those three things are true, if you press X, you're in the default state, and you're hovering an item, this happens. All right, this happens. What is this? The cursor. So this zone goes off, which basically is telling the item in this zone that it was grabbed. This, I don't even think this is being used anymore, and this can just be deleted. Set previous, and then item grabbed. So it looks like I have. Oh, okay. So inventory item grabbed. This, I think this triggers the sound. And this is talking to the item. And then I believe this is a 1 frame timer. Yep, 0.033. And then after 1 frame, we are put into the grabbing state, which is B. So just to recap, we press X, we're hovering an item, and we're in the default state. We tell the item that it was grabbed, and we play a sound. The set previous was, so in the original inventory, you were able to swap items if you pressed O, and it would like put the item that you're swapping in the where you had picked up the first item. Don't worry about it. This can be deleted. This can just completely be deleted, and everything will still work fine, I hope. So we have just entered B. We've just picked something up. We've just grabbed something. And again, this goes off. Cursor grabbing. And it stays on because a selector, it stays in the state it is in. So we just now know that we are actively grabbing something. We have grabbed. Now let's place. So that's right here. Place. Let's look into this. A little more complicated, it seems. So we have the same thing, an AND gate. If we press X, and what? And this timer is finished. What is this timer hooked up to? Grabbing. So if we have been grabbing something for 0.1 seconds, this is equivalent to like if we're in the grabbing state. But this prevents you from like picking up and setting down super quick. It's to stop bugs from happening. Not that anything I make has bugs at all, but you know, yeah, this prevents, there's issues where like if you move and place at the same time, it like freaks out. This stops that. So again, X, and then we're in the grabbing state, and what? And there is no item. We're not hovering an item. So X, we're in the grabbing state, and there's no item under the cursor. And what? What is this? Spot equipment type, right? So this is basically checking whether or not the item in the cursor can be placed in the equipment spot. So how do we do that? What is this? Right, so this first one, if the equipment's, this is the spot's equipment type. This is the equipment type of the spot we are currently hovering, okay? If the equipment type is 0, that means it's just a normal spot. So if the equipment type equals 0, it fulfills that and we can place. If the equipment type is not 0, right? Well, yeah. We're getting the grabbed item info. So we're getting the info of the item in the cursor. And with this splitter, this is, I'm assuming this is the equipment type. And if they're equal, if the item's equipment type is equal to the spot's equipment type, we can place, right? So if these 4 things are true, if we press X, if there is, if we're grabbing something, if there's nothing under the cursor, and it's the correct equipment type, what happens? We go right into the placing state, which is also the default state, which is a little confusing. Honestly, it doesn't matter, but, right, so this happens. Cursor placed, inventory, item placed. This is just the sound. It probably shouldn't be named that, honestly. And then cursor placed. I believe, yeah, this communicates with the item in the cursor and tells it to place itself, right? And that is how placing works. But what if there's an item underneath the cursor while you're already holding one and you press X? I've already showed you it. But how is that handled in the logic? It's handled by an entirely separate chip called replace. We'll get to combine later. That we haven't even talked about stacks yet. But in this chip, it's very similar to the place chip. It's very similar. The only difference, I believe, is there any different? Wait a second. Oh yeah. The only difference is this not gate. That is literally the only difference. So you could argue, I probably could optimize this, but it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. This is repeated logic. I definitely could optimize this. I'm gonna optimize this. I'll be right back. So in the spirit of practicing what I preach, I have completely just I can get rid of this, right? It's the exact same thing. The only difference is the not gate. So what I do is I take this AND gate and I've gotten rid of this one, which was like the fourth input, and I separated it into 2 more AND gates. So now it's these 3 things, right? X, what is this? I don't even know what this is. I forget. Oh, if we're grabbing something. So X if we're grabbing something and if it's the correct equipment type. And are we hovering an item? Are we hovering an item or are we not hovering an item? If we're hovering an item, we replace or combine. If we're not hovering an item, we place. All right. And yeah, we can just straight up delete that chip. We should rename this to place or replace combine. It's kind of a confusing name, but it's fine. Because replace, combine, place. Okay, so great. One more time. If we are hovering an item and we press X and we're grabbing an item and it's the correct equipment type. So if those 4 things are true, what happens? This unnamed chip happens. So what's going on here? The purpose of this chip is to decide whether or not we should replace or combine the stack. I have not talked about stacks yet. We're just going to focus on replace. So how does this even happen? If this AND gate is not on, so if any of this stuff is not true, then we are replacing. What is happening here? Let's try to figure this out. Grabbed item info. So basically it's like it's trying to figure out if the item in your cursor is stackable and if the same item, the same stackable item is being hovered. And if there's space, if the stack isn't maxed out. But all you have to know is basically if it's not combining the stack, it's replacing for now. So we're replacing. What happens? This happens. This is cool how this works. We not only tell the item in the cursor to place itself, and this is sound. We also tell the item in the inventory to grab itself. So we are telling we're grabbing and placing at the exact same time. The exact same time. And we're playing both sounds at the same time, it seems. But, you know, I'm gonna redo how sounds work. But yeah, so we're placing, and again, this tells the item in the inventory to place, and this tells the item in the that's being hovered to be grabbed. So we're doing that at the same time. And of course, after one frame, we go to the grabbing state because we placed, but we also grabbed. So at the end of this, we will still have something in our cursor. Might as well demo this. This is what it looks like. So we are placing and grabbing at the exact same time. So that wasn't too bad, but you're now probably wondering what's happening in the items, because the cursor, yeah, it's telling the items what to do, but that doesn't actually make the items do anything. Well, okay, let's go into the items. This logic is for the item, as well as this logic. We will get to all of it eventually, probably. But for now, excuse me, we're looking at how the items are actually like moving and being placed and stuff like that. And that's all happening right here. Right here. So let's take a look at this. We have a selector with 4 outputs. Hopefully, oh, thank God, these are labeled. Okay, these are actually labeled. Placed, and this is like a state, right? These are the items states. Placed, grabbed, equip, or unequip. I take it back. Well, they're kind of like states, but they're also like actions. It's a better way to put it. They're like an action. The reason I like saying states is because like when you go into B, it stays on B. But anyway, yeah, these are the 4 things the item can do. It can be placed, grabbed, equipped, or unequipped. And this changes the states. And you'll notice how this is actually like really simple. Let's actually go through this first. So for the item to be placed, I mean, you kind of already know. Remember the zone, cursor placed. And then that's here, right? Cursor placed. That zone is just directly talking to this tag, and it has to be being grabbed. So this item, for it to be placed, also like it needs to sense this tag. It needs to sense the zone, right? But it also has to be already being grabbed. What about to be grabbed? Well, to be grabbed, you have to sense the zone grabbed, and you have to have already been placed for 1 frame. All right, that's what this is. Basically, this is saying this needs to be on for at least 1 frame before this is on. That's all this is. It's the signal going into the reset and the power. And then so if these 2 things are true, we are grabbed. And then the other 2 are like super simple. Equip and unequip. So these, I believe, yeah. These are for the, let me just demo it really quick. When you hover over something that can be equipped, you can press square and it equips it. And it will unequip the thing that's already there. So that's what those two, that's what those last two things are, equip and unequip. So for right now, the sword will be equipped and the pickaxe will be unequipped. See? And then obviously, if there's nothing in it, it'll just equip. And I haven't gone over when or like where that's activated. I'm not even sure where it's activated. Is it here? It's here. Okay, it's right here. So we have our own chip for that. We'll go over that. Actually, we can do that next. But all you need to know is if the zone is sensed, then we go into that state. So really simple how it's activated, but what's happening in them? It's, again, guys, I know this looks crazy. It's really not complicated because you can just completely ignore this stuff for now. All we care about is this. And this. The inventory item tag is only on if the item is placed. It's not even an item. The tag's not even on. It's not even an item if it's in the cursor, if that makes sense. I don't want any exploits. I don't want like your stats going up or anything if you're just hovering the item over something, if it's not actually placed. So it's only an item if it's placed. And of course, it teleports to the nearest slot. It should be spot, but it's called slot. Anyway, yeah, so we're in A. It's an item, and it teleports to the nearest spot. That's it. The other stuff is just transmitting data. It's literally just transmitting a bunch of data. So yeah, it's really simple, and all this stuff is like really simple. So if we're grabbed, teleport to the grab position, which is in the cursor. That's it. That's it. And we're transmitting data. Grabbed item info. Yeah, let's go over the data. Let's actually go over the data. So when it's placed, it transmits the data equipment stats. Item equipment stats. Even if the item isn't equipment, it'll still transmit this. What else? If the cursor is hovering this item and it is placed, it not only transmits hovered item info, it also transmits hovered item stats. I'd be lying if I told you I immediately knew what the difference of these were, but one is like, oh man, I don't even, let's just figure it out. Oh my goodness. So much data. This entire chip deletes itself, if you're wondering. Okay, so we're following our wires. Hovered item info can be tracked to this. Hovered item info is the item's ID, the equipment spot type, 0 being can't be like no equipment, 1 being ammo, 2 being runes, 3 being head, etc. Max stack size, 0 being unstackable, 1 being 1, I guess, 2 being 2 max size, etc. And finally, I don't even know what the amount, right? The quantity, or the, actually, we're not doing level anymore. We're doing enchantments. But anyway, just the quantity, the stack quantity. So the max stack size, as well as how many there are. So those 4 things make up the inventory hovered item info. What about hovered item stats? That is the stats, all right? So the stat type, the value, and then the stats. The stats, they're different depending on what the stat type is. So like if it's a sword, it'll have damage, attack speed, etc. If it's a consumable, it'll have like consumable strength, the duration, the effect. If it's armor, it'll have physical reduction, magical reduction, move speed. So like you get the point, hopefully. Anyway, that's the data being transmitted. And then what about this? Item equipment stats. So I guess there's a third thing. I wonder if I could like consolidate this. But apparently there's a third thing. Equipment stats. So this is also the stats. And, oh yeah, sure, the animation ID. Sure. And then also the item stat type, which is H, I guess. But anyway, so equipment stats, this is used for like to actually change the stats of the player. Notice how it's always being transmitted, even if there's no cursor. It's just always being transmitted. Because like we need to know how much armor the player has. We need to know how much damage the player has. So if the item is just sitting in one of the equipment spots, we need to know what the stats are, and that's what that is. So that's the data that's being transmitted if we're in placed. Grabbing, the data is just grabbed item info. And I believe, yeah, hovered item info. So remember the item info was the ID, the stack type, the amount. Okay, what about equip? So when it's equipped, it teleports to the equip position. When it's unequipped, it teleports to the cursor, right? It just teleports to the cursor. I can show that if that's a little hard to like imagine. So unequip teleports this to the cursor, and equip teleports this to whichever position it's supposed to be in. See? How do we know what position it's supposed to be in? That is done, oh boy. Not new item. It's done here? No. Here it is. Here. So again, more hard coding, but it's fine. We get the hovered item info. So we get the info of the item we're hovering, right? And specifically we're getting, so is the second one, which is the spot type, the equipment spot type. And if the spot type is 1, we keyframe on, I think it's here. Yeah, here, this tag. Spot equip position. Basically, depending on the equipment type, we just keyframe on the correct tag. So, and then it'll just teleport to that tag. It's really simple. It's just hard coded. So that's how equipping works. And that is also how all the items actually move around and stuff. Okay, but let's actually finish going over how equipping works. This chip. So this actually triggers the equip signal. So what's happening here? If we press square, so C inventory equip. Now might be a good time to go over the controls. So that's this. This is just every control possible. And then specifically the variable stuff. We have a variable called inventory equip right here. And one of these is that right here. So C inventory equip. We're just continuously setting it based on what this input is. And if we pulse a signal into it, it'll turn, the value will be 1 for 1 frame. So this is hooked up to square. And it's a pulse, but this will only be on if what? So I have this logic hooked up so that we can only press square if you have not moved the D-pad for 0.1 seconds. This is again to prevent any bugs. It's to prevent multiple signals from activating at the same time. Multiple commands. So you can't shift the cursor over and equip something at the same time. It'll bug out if that happens. So this prevents that. But anyway, yeah, so square pulses the signal 1 into the inventory equip variable, which when we get that, it'll output a pulse of 1. And that's how all of the variable controls work. So I figure I'd explain it right there. Okay, anyway, so yeah, we press square. What else? if we're hovering an item, so we check if we're hovering an item. Well, actually, this is in a separate AND gate. Oh, I know why. Okay, so let's go through this AND gate first. So if we're hovering an item, and what? And the hovered item info is equipable. So yeah. Hovered item info. Remember we went through this info. It was hovered item info, I think is, oh boy. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Equipment spot type. So B is equipment spot type, all right? If that's 0, it can't be equipped. There is no equipment spot type. It just can't be equipped. So if this is 0, then this AND gate will never be on. If it's 1 to 8, it will fulfill this AND gate input. Okay, so if we're hovering an item and it belongs in equipment spot type 1 to 8, and we're not already grabbing something. Yeah, that would be kind of weird. So you can't be grabbing something, hover over another thing, and equip the thing you're hovering. Honestly, I don't see why not, but I mean, yeah, why? I guess there's reasons, but yeah. So you can't be grabbing anything if you're doing this. So if those three things are true, and you press square, it tells the item to equip. And we've already gone over how that works in the item. Now, what if those three things are true? Remember, you're hovering an item, it's equipable, and you're not grabbing anything, but you're not pressing square. So that's why this is separate. This keyframe turns on, which makes the equip prompt turn on. And if you didn't notice that, so right here, there's some prompts. If we hover, you see equip. Now, if we just get an item that can't be equipped, such as this scroll, it'll disappear. So that prompt is being turned on by this keyframe. And then if we press square, this goes off. You can see it. You can see it being equipped. All right. What's going on down here? Unequipped spot. Right. This chip, unequipped spot unequipped. I'm not even sure. Okay, I know what it does. So remember, like, we're telling the item to equip, right? But we also have to tell the item already in the spot to unequip, and that's what this does. This is again hard-coded, and it is literally just turning on this zone, which tells the item to unequip. That's all it does. It's just telling the item already there, unequip yourself. And it just, so unequipping, remember, it teleports the item to the cursor. So that's what that does. And that is being based off of the equipment spot type. All right, and so that's how equipping works. That's everything to do with equipping. Let's keep going with this stuff in the cursor. How about prompts? So basically, well, okay, to show prompts, I also have to show where the prompts are actually being displayed, which is in this stuff and right in this chip. So we have the prompts, all right? And if I just do that, you can see, well, you only see one of them because they're all, there you go. So if we do that, we can see all the potential prompts, all right? But all you need to know is basically like this logic right here turns on the prompts based on what item we're hovering, all right? Or like what's happening. So like if we're grabbing an item, for example, cursor grabbing, and we're not, what is this? I don't even know what this is. Hovering? Yeah, and we're not hovering an item. So if we're not hovering an item and we're grabbing an item, the place prompt will show up. If we're grabbing an item and we're hovering an item, the replace prompt will show up. If we're not grabbing an item and we're hovering an item, the grab prompt will show up. So it's just basic logic. That's how prompts work. How about consuming? So or basically like activating items. Right now we have a couple items. I think we have fish and yeah, we have fish and meat that can be consumed. So if I grab a stack of meat and we hover, you see consume. You see consume right there in the prompts. And if we press square, right now all it does is subtract 1 from the stack. That's all. So how does that work? I haven't gone over stack stuff yet, but we don't need to know stack stuff to understand how this works. So first we get the stats of the hovered item. And if the stats equal 7, what does that mean? It means if it's consumable. So if... Oh, wait, does it? Wait a second. This is not... Hold on. Hovered item stats. That might just be a hard-coded ID. Couldn't you eat fish, though? I'm pretty sure... Hold on. Let's figure this out. Hovered item stats. There was stats and info. This is so confusing. Okay, wait. No, so there's stats. What were stats? This. Oh, no, stat type. Okay, that's perfect. So if the stat type is 7, the stat type of 7 is a consumable item. So I did set this up correctly. I should have trusted myself. So the stat type of 7 means it's consumable. So if it is consumable and we're not grabbing anything, what happens? This keyframe, which is unlabeled, turns on. I bet you $100 this is the consume prompt. So I will label that like any good dreamer would. You know what? I probably labeled it. It was just a bug. It was definitely a bug. Dreams erased the title. I'm 100% sure that's what happened. Let's name this consume prompt. Okay. So those two things are true. We are not grabbing, and it is consumable. The consume prompt turns on. And we press square, which is the consume button. What happens? Consume. It just tells the item to consume. And this zone, just so you guys believe me or understand what's going on, this zone moves with the cursor. It's not always in the top left. The zone moves with the cursor. All of these zones, whenever I look up and show you the local zone, it's moving with the cursor. Unless stated otherwise. So, yeah, anyway, so if those three things are true, tells the item to consume. And just let me show you where that's happening. I think it's in one of these chips. Oh my lord. You know, I bet it's this chip. It is this chip. Do I label anything? Must be that Dreams bug again. Yeah, totally. Oh my goodness. All right. So right here, this tag picks up that zone and turns on this value slider, which is just the value of -1. And basically that is subtracting from the stack. I will go over that later. But yeah, that's how consuming works. Is there anything else? There is there's destroy, which is actually drop, because I made it thermo efficient enough to where I can drop items. I guess we can go over drop now. I guess we can go over this. So first, we have to not be grabbing anything. We have to be hovering something. And if those two things are true, the prompt turns on. I swear to God, I just don't label anything. And if you press the drop button, which it's called inventory destroy, but it's actually drop, which is triangle. So if those three things happen, we, 1, tell the item to drop itself, 2, play the dropped sound, and 3, emit the dropped item. So that's how dropping works. And how does the item know, like, what it is? I'll get to this later, but basically this is telling the item that was dropped what item to turn into. So we're not actually dropping. So the item that's in our inventory, we're not actually dropping that. We're creating a droppable object, a dropped object. So this is the dropped object, right? This thing. This is the inventory object. This. You'll notice how the inventory object is a tad more expensive. Just a little bit more complex. That's because the dropped object, all it needs to do is exist and store data. That's all that really needs to happen. This gets destroyed. So it's the dropped object, its entire, like, this is it. This gets destroyed. This sometimes gets destroyed. It's very, very cheap. But anyway, yeah, that's how dropping works. Is there anything else to do with the inventory that this, like, the cursor related stuff that we should cover? We can go over, let's go over this stuff. These are the sounds. I'm plan on redoing how this works. I'd like it to be not zones and tags, ideally. I don't know. We'll see. Or at least I can rename them. Like, sometimes it's zones and sometimes it's tags. I just want it to be consistent. But it is good practice to not have your sounds just, like, spread out everywhere. If you can put them in one place, it'll be easier to manage. Spot unlocking, we already covered that. Can pick up, sure. So this, yeah, basically this is just checking if there's an available slot or spot, excuse me. And if there is an available spot, we can pick up. But I mean, that's kind of simple. I haven't gone over anything about this yet, except for cursor movement. So basically this tag is in each of the spots. And if the tag is on, that means it's an available spot. So if at least one available spot exists, you can pick something up. Can pick up. What is this? Spawn new object. This is putting an object into your inventory. We have the pickup data. Let's see. What is this? New item to equip. We didn't actually cover this. We need to cover the hovered pickup data thing, but yeah, okay, we'll cover that soon. It's hard, like, it's hard to cover this in the correct order, because if I do it in the wrong order, I'll be covering too much stuff that you guys just don't understand. Let's try to cover this though. So I mean, this should make sense, but spawn new object. What is this? Pickup data. This number just represents the item we're picking up. That's all you need to know. So if this is not 0, if it's greater than 0, we emit an object. We emit this inventory object. This inventory object, I think now is a good time to cover this. This red square thing, it has the ability to turn into any object in the game, depending on what we tell it to turn into. Based on what? Based on the ID and the quantity. Mainly just the ID, but the quantity, like if it's a stackable item, we need to know how many stacks. So based on the ID and the quantity, it turns into any item. What do I mean by turn into? Well, every single item icon is here. And each one is represented by an ID. It happens to be left to right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. If we put in ID 1, every icon destroys itself except the first icon, which is represented by ID 1. ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we chose ID 5, every one of these icons would be destroyed except ID 5, which is the axe icon. That's basically how it works. So we emit the master item, and we play the sound. And then I believe this resets, yeah, and then this resets pickup data. So basically all you need to know here is if there's pickup data, we emit the item. That's pretty much it. Okay, what about this stuff? So what about inventory display stuff? This is, for the most part, this is just a bunch of text displayers. We have the prompts, which I already went over. The panels, which is just the visuals. All right. This inventory exists in real space. It's not an on-screen inventory. So I can just move this, like I can move this over here if I wanted to. Or what I probably will do is just move it underground. Or actually the lighting wouldn't be very good. I'm just gonna move it so high. Oh, that's probably not a good idea. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm not really sure. I'll put it somewhere. I'll put it somewhere where you can't see it. Okay, but anyway, yeah, so those are the panels. What about title and description? So this spawns in the name and description of the item. Remember how I was saying it destroys every icon except the one that's chosen? Well, in this, the same idea applies for the title and the description. So right here, we have every... did I not plug in the font to this one? That's weird. Okay, the font wasn't plugged into that one. That's kind of weird. But anyway, in these two items, so this is the description one. And this is the title one. We have every description and title, all right? Every single one. And when we input an ID, this stuff should be deleted. When, do we need this? I don't think we do. When we input an ID, it destroys every single one of these except the one we want. For the description, I don't think we need to do this, to be honest. I think, so the reason we're doing this is to save thermo, but because the description is only used in a single place, really, we don't even have to omit this at all. We can just leave it there. Right? We can just leave it there and then just power on the one we use. And that'll actually save a bit of thermo. For the title, it's potentially a little bit different. For the title, I plan on having the title be displayed in multiple different places. So it makes sense to omit it because that is saving thermo. So yeah. But right now, I believe the title is only displayed in the inventory. I plan on potentially having the title be displayed on screen to show like the name of what you have equipped. At the very least, I'm going to have the icons, but I'm not sure if I will also have the title. I don't know yet, but I'm leaving that option open by doing this system. Because, like, I can't just copy and paste this without destroying it. It's like I'm gonna have potentially like 200, 300, 400 items. So that's 400 text displayers just sitting there. That's way too much to copy and paste, which is why I need to destroy it. But if it only exists in one place, then we're not saving any thermo by emitting and destroying. Because you always have to have at least one to emit it. All right. So yeah, that's title and description. What about stat display? This is a little more complicated, but it's not as bad as it looks. Basically, so stat display, that's not the bottom right. That is not the bottom right. It's this. It's this stuff right here. So value, damage, speed, range. It gets more complicated though, because some items have different stats. For example, the scroll only has value. The meat has value, strength, duration, effect. So the stats change depending on what you're hovering, and that's represented here. Yeah, so generic item, nothing, none of this stuff is on, except value that's enchantment. Value is, I believe this is value. No. Oh, ID was the bottom left. Where's value? This is value. Value is always on. Value is always on. Show value if an item is hovered, yeah. And then generic item, I don't even know why this is, I don't know why I have a keyframe here, to be completely honest. But, yeah, I'm really not sure. But melee weapon, so damage, attack speed, range, and then the numbers. Ranged weapon, damage, attack speed, velocity, sorcery, damage, attack speed, armor. This is wrong. It should be physical, magical, move speed. Then ammo, damage, and then the type. You get the point. You get the point. That's then there's runes and consumables. So that's how that works. I'm keyframing the different ones depending on what the hovered item stat type is, right? Which is fed into this selector, which is what is turning these keyframes on. And then I'm also getting the numbers. I'm also getting the numbers and feeding them into the number displayers. And then this is just the font. If you're confused about like all these wires, it's so I've set this up so I can change the font if I want to. Eventually, I'm just gonna like delete this and hard code the font once I decide which. Well, once the game is finished, basically, or if I'm really tight on thermo. But yeah. All right, so that's how the stats are displayed, and then I believe and these are the bottom right. These are the combat stats, and this is super simple. It's literally just text displayers, number displayers, and I'm getting the combat stats. Where is this coming from? Before we go over where that's coming from, we also have the combat level and health bar. And then the health bar is this. It's just it's just this being animated, basically. Yeah, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay. There, okay, there. That's what I wanted to show you. So it's this keyframe it slid over all the way to the left, this one slid over all the way to the right, and then we can keyframe in between that to change its position. And how we're changing the position, we're getting the health, we're getting the max health, we're dividing, and we're inputting whatever that is, the percentage, into the playhead position. You can search how to do health bars. This is not a health bar tutorial, but that's how it's done. And then obviously the camera. That's self-explanatory. And then all of this stuff is on if we are in the state inventory. And we have a nice little transition here. So this is a wiper, which makes the screen black. And this is teleporting the player to the... Well, this teleports the player to the inventory. This teleports the player to where he was before he went into the inventory. We can see that right here. So see the players here, teleports back there. So instead of copying and pasting the player and duplicating everything, we are just teleporting the player into the inventory. Okay. And you can see this transition happening like that. This not gate is what actually powers the inventory stuff. This is, this. So if we didn't have this, look what happens when we transition back out. Yeah, that. And look how bad it looks if we're like even farther away. It's not good. So what I did was power on another camera. So normally we're using just the default controller sensor camera, but for 2 frame or 3 frames, we're powering on, or a couple frames, I guess, we're powering on just a camera. Where is that camera? I don't know. I have no idea, but it's attached to the player somewhere. Okay, well now I have to find it. Is it this? Yep, here it is. Inventory. So it's related to inventory teleporting. So here's the camera. It's just right here where your camera is most likely to be, and it just basically snaps it. So you can't actually transition the controller sensor camera. You can't control the transition. I don't know why, but you just can't. So that's how I get around that. I just flash on this camera for a little bit. Okay. Yep, so that's I think that's everything to do with the cursor and the basic inventory stuff. Let's now go through how items are picked up and added to the inventory. We're starting with picking up items. To do that, we have to start with the ground item. So in the same way there was an inventory master item, there is a ground master item. There's a pickup master item. And again, this item can turn into any item in the game. I guess now would be a good time to go over how that works. So let's edit the source of this so I can show you like what's going on. Okay, this object holds all of the item data for every item. It has the description, the name, the icon, and each of these keyframes holds the data, okay? The data being like these sliders. So these keyframes, I didn't mean to do that. These keyframes change the values of these sliders. All right. Okay, so for this one, for example, the dark logs, I just didn't even keyframe the stats because they'll never be used. Yeah, like item stat type, they'll literally never be used. So I just didn't keyframe it because it's a waste of wires, frankly. Okay, but anyway, how is this working? It looks kind of crazy, but it really is not that complicated. I promise. Let's just start from here. ID. So we have the ID 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. We're rounding it to, there's some bugs, I don't even want to talk about it. But so we have the ID, which is an integer. We're putting it into this counter. This counter is from 0 to 50. That doesn't mean there's only 50 items. That just means there are exactly 50 frames in this timeline. Okay, 50 frames in this timeline. Each number represents a frame. If I were to change this to 51, it'll be slightly off. See how it's like a little off? So it needs to be exactly 50 because there's exactly 50 frames. 51 frames, excuse me, because 0 to 50. But just, it lines up, right? Wherever I put this, the playhead lines up with the rectangles. Okay, anyway. The counter is set to a number, and when this counter is set to a number, I turn on the destroyers, okay? Which destroys all the icons, all the names, and all the descriptions, all right? But if we're destroying all of them, how does it turn into one of them? Well, that's where these keyframes come in. Let's look at the sword. If I hover this, look what happens. First, it keyframes the sword into the position, and this is keep changes. So this red square is what it is, the size of the inventory icon. It's, yeah. So I know how big to make it. But yeah, this keyframe makes the icon like the right size and the right position. It turns off the sword's destroyer. So the sword won't be destroyed, the name won't be destroyed, and the description won't be destroyed. Everything else gets destroyed. The reason that didn't work is because we didn't input a number. Can we do a little example? So we're playing. Oh, my bad. That was the wrong thing. Okay, we're playing. Bam. Everything gets destroyed except the sword, the name, and the description. And you'll notice how it's 6% thermo, which is kind of crazy. And that thermal's only going to go up. But it goes down to 1%, which frankly, it's not even going to be 1% because, well, you'll see. But that's how it works. I guess I can do one more example. So let's delete this wire, reset, put it to 8. I don't even know what that's going to be. We'll find out. Play time. Bam. It all destroys except the log, the log's name, and the description. That's how it works. And again, I already said, but these keyframes, yeah, they changed all this data. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. What's going on? Oh, no, never mind. It's fine. I guess I can go through. Yeah. So this is the item data. This is the item stats. This is the equipment stats. These don't really, like, I already kind of explained what they were, but it's confusing. It's confusing to me. It doesn't matter. All you need to know is that this is the data, and we are outputting the data here, okay? All right, but yeah, so that's that. And that thing I just showed, the item, I'm gonna call that the item data. That is here for the master ground item. It's also up here for the master inventory item. But like, here's the inventory item. You'll notice how, well, you might not notice, but there's no description and there's no title. That's not there. I placed that item in here and then I just deleted that stuff because all I needed was the icons. The description and title I placed in separately and put right here because I'm using them for different things. But I stored it all in the same item because it's just easier to manage if it's all in one place. So let me just show that. That's not what I wanted, my bad. This. That is the item. See? So all I do, if let's say I want the icons. Let's say I want the icons. I just delete that and delete that. Now I've got the icons, right? Let's say I only want the icons and not the data. I would just delete all this stuff. Right? So now all I get is the icons. Maybe I only wanted the titles. So I would just delete all the data, all the icons, all the descriptions, and just leave the titles. And obviously leave this stuff too. And then you just put in an ID and you get the title. So that's how that works. Okay, great. So we figured out, we now know how I'm getting the icons. All right. Oh, and this is what I did. This is exactly what I did. So here is this chip with everything deleted. And then I think Time needs to be playing for me. Or I think I need to power it on. I guess I can do that. So you see? What else though? So this is the ground item. The pickup item. So here it is. And you'll see how A is the ID. It's just being fed directly into this. Into the counter. But yeah, so how does this work? How does this work? Let's go back even farther to how we spawn it in. We are spawning it in like this. All right. We have an ID. We have an amount / it should be enchantment. It says level, but it should be enchantment. So we have an ID and an amount, and we have whether or not it's stackable. That's it. Into a fat wire. So we're transmitting this. we emit this object, the pickup object, right on top of that transmitter. So it emits, and we're only emitting one, all right? And it gets received right here. It's important to note that this is a floating chip. It's not attached to anything, so I can freely put destroyers in it without that destroyer destroying the entire object. Because again, the microchip is floating. It's not attached. Okay, so we're receiving that data. What was it again? It was ID, amount, and whether or not it was stackable. We are saving that data. We're saving them in... Why is this 4? Why are there 4 things here? Let's figure that out really quick. I think it has something to do with the inventory loading. No, I'm not sure. This is clearly 3 things. And here, it's 4 things. So what's the 4th? Dropping from... Oh, okay, dropping. Okay. Right. Because things you drop need to be teleported to a specific place. Okay, so we can just ignore that for now. Yeah, we're just ignoring this for now. Basically, if it's on, it's being dropped, as opposed to being spawned in from this box, right? Okay. So ID is being saved in this loop calculator. Amount is being saved here, and whether or not it's stackable. Let me just label this. Is being saved here, and whether or not it's dropped is being saved here. This all gets put through a fat wire, and then it's saved in the signal manipulator. Why are we doing that? Why don't we just save it in the signal manipulator first, or like only? The reason is because this takes at least 1 frame to work, whereas this happens instantly. So this is faster, so I just use this. And then after 0.5 seconds, I destroy this chip. So we're only saving it here for like 0.5 seconds. And then we're ultimately saving it here for its existence. How does the saving work? The value is looped into the freeze output, and freeze output freezes the value. So the value is just stuck here forever, basically. Great, so now we have all that info. We have the ID, we have the amount, and we have whether or not it's stackable. So the ID is put into here, and that's transmitted. Where else is it put into? It's also put into here. Right. So this chip gets destroyed as well. And it's also put into the icon chip, right? So we know what icon we are. So we know what icon it is. So again, we emit, this data is transmitted, the data is saved, and the ID is used to select the icon. The amount, if it's, what is this? Yes, okay, this pulses, I guess, I'm not sure. But basically, the amount is saved in this loop calculator. And we need this loop calculator because the value actually needs to change, all right? I think now is a good time to talk about stacks. The amount is saved in this looped calculator. Right here, see? You can see these numbers, 1, 3, 5. Those are the numbers, those numbers are saved in that calculator I just showed. Why? Let me fill my inventory up and show you an example of why. Okay, my inventory is full. Let me drop an item now. I'm gonna pick up this. The max stack is 5. I have 3 right here, but my inventory is full otherwise. When I pick up this stack of 5, notice how there's 3 left on the ground. That's why we're storing that value in a looped calculator. We just subtracted 2 from that value, and that 2 got put into our inventory right there. So that's why we need to store that number. And right here, amount to subtract is how it was done. The value 2 was transmitted through here, and it was just it was the value -2, and actually it was the value 2, and then it's multiplied by -1. And that for one frame, that -2 was added to the value that was stored here. So it subtracted 2, basically, is what I'm saying. It subtracted 2. We're displaying that number. We're getting the font. We destroy this chip if it's not even stackable. So that's important. Right here is whether or not it was stackable. If it is stackable, we destroy the chip. So I guess... Oh, it's not stackable. Oh, this should be not stackable. My bad. Okay. So if it's not stackable, we destroy the stack-related stuff because we literally just don't need it. Okay, and finally, if the stack is 0, so if the value of the stack is 0, destroy it because there's none left. A stack of 0 doesn't exist. What else? What about this timer? Oh, okay. So this is the lifetime of the item, 120 seconds. This might be changed, but currently, if the item exists for 120 seconds, it just destroys itself. This is just to prevent lag. What else? Pick up data. Okay, okay. And then finally, picking it up. All right, picking it up. We are transmitting the ID and the amount. The ID and the amount. Or the ID and the value of 1. If it's not stackable, 1 will be transmitted here. If it is stackable, the amount of stacks will be transmitted. So basically, I'm transmitting a minimum of 1. Alternatively, I could have just used a NOT gate here. Maybe that would have made more sense, but I'm saving a gadget, so... Okay, anyway, that is being transmitted through pickup data. And then, of course, we have pickup position and gyroscope. Pickup position is used so like we can we can choose one of the items to be picked up. That's how you see the white outline. That white outline is teleporting, or it's following to one of those positions. All right, so that's everything to do with the pickup items. Now let's cover how to actually pick up the items. And that is this. So this object is what handles actually like destroying the object on the ground and spawning in a new object in the inventory. So let's just try to go through this. It is there's a lot happening here, and a lot of the complexity comes from the stack related things. I almost don't even want to explain this because it's really confusing. But I'll try to at least walk through the idea. So let's start. I mean, let's just start with this ring. So this white ring. This is. I mean, this is the ring you see when you walk up to an item, right? And it actually looks like it's teleporting, but it's not. It's actually using a follower because we're able to put in the position. I don't know why. I really have no idea why this is going through a signal manipulator. I don't think it needs to. It's interesting. I think I was doing something else, but anyway. Oh, wait. I do need this. I believe somewhere this is keyframed? No. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. Anyway. how does this work? Because if we always left it on, you'd actually see it like move through space. But we're turning it off sometimes. When do we turn it off? This is red circle. Oh no, we are keyframing it. Yeah, look at that. See, right here. So when is this? I guess a better question is, when do we turn this on? Oh, right here. This. Bam, right there. Okay. This is wired into the power of that circle. When is this on? This is on only when this position equals the position that we're trying to go to. All right? If it was always on, this is what it would look like. Oh, never mind. Hold on. I deleted... What I needed to delete was this. Let's try that. So you can see, it's a little bit subtle, but you can see it move through space. Like, you can see that extra frame right here. And we don't want that. We don't want that. So what we had to do was only turn it on if it reached its position. All right? So that's how that's handled. But anyway, it's the more complex stuff. Like, what is actually happening here? Pickup data. This pickup data. This is what's important. This is what... This is the item that we're picking up. It's the ID and the amount. How is this being filled? I believe right here. So in this chip, yeah, hovered pickup data. So we have two variables. Hovered pickup data that we're setting. Hovered pickup data and pickup data. And they're both being set from this. What is this? It's the data, right? We're getting the pickup data, we're splitting it. It is the ID and the enchantment. All right, the amount / enchantment. We're receiving the pickup data, and remember that was a fat wire. We're splitting that fat wire. It's the ID and the amount, and then we're combining it. We are taking the ID, we're dividing it by 1,000, and then we're adding it to the amount. So let's say the ID was 2 and the amount was 2. The number would be 2.002. And that number is the hovered pickup data and the pickup data. So remember, like that is the number. ID is to the right of the decimal point. Quantity, the amount, is to the left. And this is really important because this is also how we're saving the items. But right, so we're getting the pickup data, and remember, the pickup data was being transmitted from the pickup item right here. Pickup data, okay? And yep, so it's being encoded and it's being put into hovered pickup data and pickup data. All right, great. That's the most important part. So, okay, and this is pickup data. Item needed for stack. There's a lot going on here. Here's this stuff. I'm transmitting a lot of data through variables. Yeah, pickup data. Hovered pickup data, okay. Spawn new object. We have the pickup data. Where are we actually? So okay. So let's just work backwards, I guess. Where we have the hovered pickup data. So this is used. The hovered pickup data is used for. I think it's used for either adding to stacks or equipping, like from the ground. So new item equipped. This is probably going to be the hovered pickup data. Right. So we're taking the hovered pickup data. We're getting the ID, or we're taking the ID from that, and we're getting the equipment spot data. So we're getting, okay, so we're getting the ID of the item that's hovered. We're getting the equipment spot type from that, and then remember these, we're powering on that tag that, so it'll make it go, so it'll equip it to that spot if we pick it up. Just if that didn't make any sense. So there's nothing in our inventory. If we pick up this sword, it'll go to the sword spot first. All right. So that's one of the things hovered pickup data is used for. But we're focusing on pickup data. I mean, it looks like pickup data can only be turned on if this is true and this is true. So can spawn item. This is basically saying, is there room in the inventory? So we have spot, new item position. So we're checking if there's a new item position available. All right. And we're checking item stack needed for max. Is this equal to 0? Okay. So, and we're checking, I think this is checking if it's not stackable. Item stack needed for max. Oh man, this is, I made this a while ago, and there's a lot going on here, and this is very hard to explain. Okay, I'm sorry to do this, but I need to just, I need, like, it's gonna take too long for me to like refigure this out. I'm just gonna be very broad with it. So basically, oh my lord, there's so much going on. Okay, basically what's happening is that we already covered that this is following to the, oh, we actually didn't cover this. This is always following to the closest object. How is that working? Let's go over that. Where is that? Is it this? Yeah, it's this. Okay, so what we're doing is we have a follower, all right? That's just that's right here. We're not following anything, but what we're doing is we're trying to find the target position. We're following the tag pickup position, which is in every pickup, right? So this will output the position of the closest pickup position tag. It'll output the position of the closest pickup item, all right? We're using that position and we're putting it into the follower. So that's how that works. So basically it's following to the closest item. All right, great. What this stuff is doing, guys, I can't walk through it. It's too convoluted. Basically, we are setting the pickup data variable to the ID and the amount, the stack amount. So it's the amount, decimal point, the ID. That's what's happening. There's a bunch of checks to make sure, like, so sometimes we're checking if there's a stack that is not full in your inventory, and it's checking if you're picking up that stack. And if you are, it will add to the stack first before creating a new item. It's also checking if your inventory is full. It's checking, and that's pretty much it. But basically, when we press square, or yeah, I think it's square to pick up items, it's not creating the item. It doesn't create the item here. All it does is put the number into pickup data, okay? It puts that number, amount.id, into this variable. That's what all this is doing. Oh, and then after that happens, so the number is in that variable, right? Pickup data. It sends that number back in to the pickup data wireless receiver, which right here receives it and it destroys itself. So once the number is saved, we destroy the ground object. All right. And that number, what we just picked up, that number is saved in the variable. So we have that data. you can only pick up one item at a time. So that's why this works. It's not like we're not like teleporting this item into the inventory. That's not what we're doing. We're saving the data of the pickup item in this variable. I know this isn't a variable, but it's the name. All right. There's some other stuff going on, but I'm truly sorry I can't fully explain it. It would probably take an hour for me just to, maybe like a half hour, just to like figure this out again, and I just can't do that. Okay, so we have the items data, the ID and the amount stored in that variable, all right? What happens now? If we go here, spawn new object, here's the variable, pickup data, if it's greater than 0, so if it has a number in it, we emit. And we're emitting the master object, okay? We play the sound, and then after 0.2 seconds, we clear this variable. We reset the variable. When this variable has data in it, you cannot pick up, and you can't pick up things, all right? Yeah, see, when it's less than 1, so the minimum is going to be 1, I believe. So when it's less than 1, you can't pick anything up. You can't press square. Okay, great. So we've successfully emitted the object. Fantastic. Now what? Let's go into the object. So we've emitted the object. What is going on here? This item spawn data, this is how we load inventory items. We're not there yet. We haven't gone through loading and saving yet. But right here, pickup data. So remember the variable? Well, here it is. We're getting that data. We're decoding it. So remember, the ID was to the right of the decimal point. The amount was to the left. So to decode it, we multiply it by 1,000 and then take the remainder after division of 1,000. And then to get the amount, we just round down. So that gets the data out. And then, so this gets the ID. We're putting the ID into the counter. I think we've already gone through this. And then for the amount, we're putting the amount just right into here. Then what though? So I've already gone through this. We have all this data, all right? We have all this data. What are we doing with it? We are saving it, all right? So here's all that data. We're saving it. Yeah, there's 4 different things. There's whether or not it's two-handed. There's the equipment stats, the item stats, and the item data. That doesn't really mean very much, but it's just all the data. All right, we're storing all the data in here. And it's just a bunch of looped signal manipulators. That's all it is. So the data is being stored in here, okay? And then this entire chip gets destroyed once the icon is selected. Once the timeline chooses a keyframe, the destroyer destroys this entire chip. All right, but it doesn't matter because all the data is already saved. Okay, so the data is saved. Now what? Well, we're gonna use the data. There's a couple main parts to this. Well, actually, I think there's only like one main part. Yeah, I mean, I already went through all of this. The only other like thing, the main thing is the stacks. So not all items will have stacks. If they don't have stacks, right? Max stack, the max stack equals 0, just destroy the chip. So this entire thing gets destroyed. And actually, this should get destroyed, this should get destroyed, this should get destroyed. Right? Yeah, all of this should get destroyed. So let's do that really quick. Like that. I mean, honestly, all this could just be in this chip. Maybe that would be simpler, but it doesn't really matter. So, yeah. So this is where the stacks are handled, and this I can explain because it's not convoluted. all of the stacks, so all the information, the stack information is stored right here in a looped calculator. The reason is so we can subtract or add to it. So what's going on here? We have this add to stack. We have this initialize stack. And that's it. All right, that's it. Let's start with initialize. So we initialize the stack. Remember there was this data, I mean, just take my word for it. This right here is the initial amount. All right, so this is what the stack is starting. This is the size it starts at. And it goes into here and it adds to the calculator and then it destroys itself, basically. Just make sure it's a pulse. It needs to be a pulse. With this looped adder thing, it needs to be a pulse. I have a tutorial on this. It's a relatively old one, but if I don't remember to put a link in the description, let me know and I'll add it. But it talks about the looped adder and how it can be used to save data locally. But anyway, so that's how to set the initial stack. And then how to add or subtract is just this. So again, we take the value, we make sure it's a pulse. And then we put it into here. And so if we pulse in a negative number, it'll subtract. If we pulse in a positive number, it'll add. And that's it with that. I mean, it's super simple. If it's 0, destroys, and we're displaying the number. Actually, are we? Yeah. We're displaying the number in the bottom right. Okay, and then this stuff is changing the stacks. All right, so we have consume, just subtracts 1. Remember, subtracts 1, so it inputs a -1 into the add to stack. What about this? Combining, this is important. So combine add, combine take away. How does combining work? Remember, so, well, you don't remember because I never showed this off. So we have 4 and 4. The max stack is 5. Let's do this. So we have 2 and 2. It says replace right here, but it will combine. Bam, like that. So what just happened was it subtracted 2 from the one in the cursor, and it added 2 to the one that the cursor was hovering. Now, what if we do this? It subtracted 1 from the cursor and added 1 to the one that we're hovering. And that is what's happening here. So we told it to add 1, and then we told the other object to subtract 1. And these are just both put into here, and yeah. Where did we actually, like, where, I'm not sure if I covered that. I did not cover that. So that's this chip. So we have the grabbed item info and we have the hovered item info. We are taking, and then we're finding, what are we doing? We're basically, my brain just shut off. We're figuring out how many stacks to transfer. So we're figuring out the limiting factor, right? It's either the max stack size or the minimum amount of items there are. So, okay, here's an actual example. Let's say there's 2 in the cursor and 4 that's being hovered. The limit is 1 because so the limit is like the stack that you're adding to, right? Because the max is 5 and there's 4. So it can only hold 1 more. So the limit is that 1. What if it was 2 and 2? The limit would be the 2 in the cursor, right? So it would add 2. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. But basically, I'm just trying to figure out how many stacks to transfer. Once we figure that out, which is with this, we're basically taking the minimum of either how many is in the hovered item or the max, or wait. Sorry, of how many the hovered item can fit, or just how many stacks are in the grabbed item. So the minimum of that is how many we're taking away and how many we're adding. And we're being very careful with this because look at these zones. So they're in very precise positions. because like we're altering the items, and those items are like right on top of each other. So we have to be very careful with that. I do just want to show you guys like exactly what I mean. So if I pause, so the items, so the one in the cursor is right here, and the one in the inventory is right here, or that's being hovered is right here. See? So we're being very precise with those zones. But yeah, so that's how we're sending that number. And so obviously the takeaway one is being multiplied by -1, and the add one is not. Cool. Yep, so that's how that's working. And so again, those numbers are being passed through here, and then they're being added or subtracted here. And finally, stack filling. So this is the most complicated part, and honestly, I'm not even going to explain it. But I'll explain it, but I'm not going to go like gadget by gadget. Basically, what is stack filling? There's 3 and 3. The max is 5. So if we pick up this 3, it'll fill the first one the 5 and the next one the 4. See? Okay, well, it's random, but one is 5 and one is 4. There. So that is what stack filling is. Basically, it's filling the existing stacks before it creates a new one. And let's just continue that example. Of course, I restarted. So if we pick up 3, it's 5 and 4. And now if we pick up a 3 again, it will add 1 to the 4 and then create a new stack. See? So now it's 5, 5, 2. That was also stack filling. Stack filling just covers, it basically makes sure the existing stacks are full before creating a new item. That's what's happening here. It's sensing the hovered pickup item. It's checking if the IDs are the same. We're using an exclusive gate to make sure only one item gets filled at a time. And then we're calculating how many how many items are needed to fill before we need to go to the next one. It's a lot, and it's part of the reason why I wasn't able to fully explain this. It's related to that. I don't know what to say. Anyway, that's the stack related stuff in the items. A couple more things to go over for the item specifically. Save data. So remember that number we were talking about? The amount, decimal point, ID? That's what this is, sort of. We have the ID and we have the amount. This is the amount, current amount. We're putting that into a fat wire, and then we're transmitting that to save data. Okay, that would be a really good time that would be a really good transition into how saving works. Really quick though, I just want to go over this, destroy. So if I ever tell this item to destroy with the zone, it destroys it. I mean, that's simple enough. When are we telling it to destroy? I don't even think this is being used. Oh no, this is being used. When we're dropping, when we're dropping right here, destroy. So it destroys the inventory item, but it's emitting a ground item, right? So it's destroying it, but it's not actually destroying it, it's dropping it. Okay, anyway, and then initialize. This is what happens right when it spawns in. It teleports to the new item position. We will go over how that is worked out soon. We haven't gotten to the spots yet. So it teleports to the new item position, and it turns on. So 1 frame later, 0.1 seconds later. Actually, that might be, yeah, okay, that's 2 frames later. Excuse me. It turns on all this logic, right? The place logic. So I don't want this on while it's like teleporting and while it's spawning in. So it's initializing. That's why. And then it also and then this chip is also destroyed. So I'm destroying a lot of logic that I don't need after it's done being used. And that's it for the item. That's everything. We got through everything for the item. Now, let me semi-cleanly transition into saving, and more specifically, or I guess less specifically, the spots. So we've already gone through like how the cursor moves, but there's a little more left to do. So let's do this. New item fill priority. So we were talking about how it was teleporting to new item position. What is that? What is new item position? Right here. New item position. Now, how does this work? Well, when you pick up items, they spawn in top left. So this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, etc. How does that work? I literally hard code the priority. So we have new item fill priority. This is going to be 2. Yep, 2. 1.9. 1.8. You get the point. Okay, so I've gone through and like manually changed the sliders in each one of these. That is put into this exclusive gate. All right. Exclusive gate, basically only one of these can be on at the same time. This exclusive gate is in every single one of these spots, and only one can be on at a time. It will only be on if this is true. What is this? If there's no item in the spot. So if there's no item in the spot and it has the highest priority, that will be the new. So this tag will be on. Only one of these tags can be on. This tag is in every single spot. Only one can be on. Okay? So, and it's the one with the highest priority. Or when we're loading. That's a different thing, though. That's a different thing. We're not there yet. We're almost there. But yeah, so that's how the new item position thing works. And then specifically for equipment, remember we have this interface. Or yeah. See right here, new item can go here, I think, or that is very descriptive. But basically, oh yeah, see, okay, notice how the fill priority is 10, right? Notice how that's 10. So it's 10, but the new item can only go here if it's the right equipment type. So basically so if this is on, and we already covered that, but if this is on, this priority is higher than all of these, right? So it'll prioritize auto-equipping it first. That's the idea. I can potentially make it a setting. Maybe I can add that in the settings, like give the player the choice. Do you want to auto-equip things? I could actually, that's not a bad idea. But anyway, what else? I mean, this is literally just the graphics. We already went through this, so I think we're ready. We're on the final stretch, guys. Let's go over saving and loading. Should we save first or should we load first? You can't really load until you save. So let's. Did the chicken or the egg? No. Let's save first. So remember, we were transmitting save data right here. Item save data. That is being picked up right here in this spatial zone, in scene zone. We're splitting it. We're encoding it. So when I say encode, I mean, again, like it's the ID and the amount. It's the amount, decimal point, ID. We're taking the ID and putting it to the right of the decimal point. The amount is to the left of the decimal point. So we're doing that, and then we're saving it in a variable. This one is spot 2. This one is spot 1. This one's spot 3. I had to go through and name every single one. It was a great time. I had a good time doing that. Okay, so when do we save? When are we actually setting this variable? You have to be in state default, not the inventory, state default. We're not saving when you're in the state inventory because things are moving around, everything's crazy, and if you can leave the game whenever you want. I can't stop you from leaving the game. So if you could potentially like mess things up if I was saving while you were in the inventory. So I'm only allowing saving in default. I actually might make it so you have to like save at only like specific locations. I could do that. But currently it's just always saving. Oh, and then yeah. The amount has to at least be 1. That was a fun bug to fix. It was not. The amount has to at least be 1. Okay, so that's how you're saving. We're just putting that number, the amount .id in a variable. Want to see the variables? I'm sure you do. Here they are. So I've laid it out how the inventory is laid out. Every inventory spot gets one variable, and every equipment spot gets one variable. And then, of course, we're storing the slots unlocked, and this is not a tutorial on character customization data, but, you know. Okay. So that's saving. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. What about loading? Also pretty easy. We are taking the saved number, amount.id. We're decoding it, I think. Oh, no, we're not. I guess we're not. Okay, we're not decoding it. Oh, I guess we decode it. Okay, I guess we're decoding it here. Yeah, that makes sense. That saves thermo. So instead of decoding it on every single inventory spot, we just decode it in the item, and then we're just destroying this anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, so we're item spawn data, item spawn data. So we're taking that number, we're passing it to the item that we just spawned in. So we spawn in the item, we're passing this number to the item we spawned in, we're decoding it, and I've already gone through this. But yeah. But wait, there's more. So what about this? What is this? Well, we're actually passing a number back into this. So what are we passing in? Okay, this not gate. This not gate, if this is on, that means the data is saved. That means like the data has been transferred. So we pass a number back through there, we receive it, and then it's basically saying, okay, we've got the data, and then it destroys. So it destroys this chip. Okay, but that didn't actually happen. What actually happened was this timer finished because nothing was saved in this variable. If nothing's saved in the variable, if it equals 0, after 0.1 seconds, we destroy. All right, so we're either destroying just after 0.1 seconds or once the item receives the data. And also, if it's greater than 0, so basically if it's not this, we emit an item. So we're only emitting an item if there's something stored, right? And just for like a little demo to prove this works, I mean, of course it works, but I'm going to unlock all slots, and I'm going to store some meat in every single inventory slot. So as we said, let's do 3 meat, and then the ID is 002. I memorized the ID for the meat. It's 2. So if we play, a stack of 3 meat will appear in every single spot. Okay, something inventory slot unlocked. For some reason, these slots aren't unlocking, and I don't know why. Uh-oh. That was supposed to go smoother than it did. Why aren't these slots unlocking? Let's see. Where is slot unlocking? I probably messed something up, honestly. I mean, of course I did. Oh yeah, remember when I deleted that wire like 40 minutes ago? Yeah, so that probably has something to do with it. So let's try this again. There you go. So a stack of 3 meat spawned in every spot, because I told it to, because that's what I set the inventory variables to. So there you go. So that's how saving works, and saving and loading works. So I'm gonna undo that though. And I'm gonna rewire that because let's not break the game trying to make this tutorial. So that's saving, or that was loading rather. Is there anything else? I don't know. Okay, guys, I think that's it. This video took like 3 hours to record, I think. I don't even know. I'm not gonna edit this very much at all. So whatever the length of this video is pretty much how long it took. I need to set these like goals a little bit higher because no, I wanted to make this. People are very curious about how this works, and frankly, it feels. I assume it seems like magic to like 99% of people. So hopefully this explains some of it. I'm truly sorry I couldn't explain the stack related stuff with picking up with the picker upper. But guys, it's like there's a lot. it's confusing. It's really confusing. But yeah, hopefully this explains everything else really well. If you have any questions, please let me know. I cannot make this remixable, so don't ask. There is a bug. There's a bug where I can't make this public because oh my god, wait. Nope, this is different. So even if I made these 4 things public, I still wouldn't be able to make it public. I promise. If I can, I might just make this public, but I don't think they fixed that bug. They might have though, who knows? Anyway, if this took a lot of work to make, so if you any support is appreciated. So this was made for my RPG, of course. I'm streaming the development of this every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on Twitch. The link is in the description. I highly recommend you join and watch me. You'll be able to directly like influence the decisions I make and help me make the game. Honestly, I ask for feedback all the time, and you'll definitely like pick up different techniques and stuff that I use. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna